Hello, and well, good morning, at least for me. Just woke up, just got to work. Today, hopefully, is going to be the day we get a Mini-B, at least set up and assembled. You can see I'm missing a wheel here because I'm messing with the transmission. I've just figured this out, so I wanted to share this. This is the first part of this video, and really this is what was holding me back. The engine is the one thing that's not mounted so far, so I've got the fuel tank set up just like my Mini-T, actually the same 3D printed part at the bottom there, same 3-hose system, but the difference of course is that the Mini-B is significantly smaller, and I didn't want to mar the body too much, so I'm not going to be able to have the throttle servo stacked on top of the steering servo. You can actually see this is my receiver. That's an SR215 stripped out of its shell. I just hollowed out some of this plastic and slotted it in there and glued it in. Fits fine, plugs in fine. I've got the throttle servo plugged in as well. Flattened out the chassis part to fit the rest of the engine, so that's all set. But my next step, the thing I'm waiting on, is to figure out where the engine goes. And before I can figure out where the engine goes, I need to figure out where the spur gear goes. Now the spur gear I'm using here is a Traxxas part. Forgive me, I don't have the packaging in front of me. This is a 31 tooth Mod 8 gear. I also picked up a 34 tooth. That's Traxxas part 5639. I think the other one was 5634 or something. Anyways, this is actually a pinion gear for an Emax, which they don't make anymore, so these are getting harder to find, but they're they're just the perfect size for mini nitro applications. And since the clutch bell I'm using is HSP, it's Mod 8, so boom, considered a spur gear. So this gear here is going on the buggy, and I just wanted to share how I got that on there. So first and foremost, the stock transmission setup had a pin that went through here and went into a rear plate that the spur gear sat on. I replaced that with a small Tamiya body clip, just so it has something to sit on. I've done the same thing in my Mini-T. This is where it differentiates from the Mini-T though. Next I've got camera problems apparently. Anyways, next I've got this little guy. This is actually a collar from a 90mm hot racing shock. It was intended to space the shock off from a shock body. I think it was for a Traxxas vehicle, but you can see it was anodized blue. It's really hard to focus. This is now shaved down into a tapering cone, so that this sits perfectly on the shaft and is just a little bigger than the end of the gear. The gear is, again, kind of hard to see, but I've beveled this out with a one size up drill bit. That basically just sits on there and with enough force centers the gear. That guy goes right there. And to hold it all down, I've got, this is kind of a weird, it's a Red Cat bushing to go on the bottom of a Red Cat Volcano steering knuckle with a O-ring, I believe, that held on a Tamiya body kit part, and a washer. So just stack them, slip them on the shaft, bolt it down. And here's the gear installed. It's actually pretty well put together there. Not lacking the shock. The engine, again, I'm still trying to get it to lay down sideways. That 31 tooth gives me just enough clearance between the flywheel and the transmission housing. Should be good. So next step, I guess, is trying to figure out where the engine is supposed to sit and drilling those screws. I expect I will keep this stock, this is actually an HSP engine mount that happened to bolt up to this Pico engine. I think I'm going to keep that, try to drill some holes through here, and screws up through the bottom of the chassis into the holes that I drill through the side of the mount with some washers to space it off, because you can see this distance here. It's probably about, 2-3 millimeters. That needs to be filled, of course, so that the engine sits flat. So I'll figure that out, and I'll make another segment. Okay, sorry, I really need to slow down between these videos because I just get into the mood and just work. Anyways, some progress. Got the engine mounted. Gear mesh is fantastic, thanks for asking. If you're paying attention, you notice the slide was going to move up, which makes tuning a real pain in the butt. So you see that slot there, that's for the high-speed needle. You can just see it through that window. And then the idle speed is through that hole right there. There's the idle speed, so I can tune the car from beneath. I've got the fuel into the carburetor there. That doesn't kink, luckily. And then the servo, 3D printed these little feet and made an L bracket for it, so it'll mount just like that, and hopefully it'll work. We'll get it hooked up. I guess this is where I'm going to have to call it today. I've been working on this basically non-stop. It's basically done, other than the exhaust, and I'll talk about that here in a second. But yeah, this has been an interesting trip. Not super thrilled with how that brake is. I've got the battery charging here. Speaking of battery, it is a single cell 14500, basically AA sized lithium 1S battery. So that'll mount right there behind the engine, and it charges through its own dedicated charge port and runs under the engine. Hopefully that's not a problem. Power switch interrupting it on the way, and soldered into the back of the receiver for power. So just flip that switch, power's on. It's charging right now, that's why I'm not flipping the switch. But glow start for the tip of the glow plug. The base of the glow plug I had soldered onto a washer under this nut, which has conveniently fallen off right before I started shooting, so I'll have to resolder that. But I'll have a remote, glow plug starting setup. Throttle is a interesting get up here. So basically it's an L-shaped. That's throttle open, throttle closed, brake, and the brake pushes instead of pulls the fuel line against the clutch bell. It's all fairly effective. Actually, it looks like my charging's near done, so I'm gonna stop the charge, unplug it, give you an electronics run through. So power switch, see the SR215 turn on, that orange light up there. Left, right, of course. Throttle open, throttle closed, brake, and the brake is pretty effective. Open, coasting kind of drags. I can add or remove washers here to change that, and then brake. So yeah, the big thing for me was that throttle was responsive opening and snapped back closed when asked without applying brake, and it does, which is fantastic. And the body. So here we go. This wire, I don't know where I'm gonna put the dummy glow plug, but it's gonna be somewhere. I'm just gonna tuck it for now. I'm also not 100% sure on how I'm going to hold the back of the body down, but like I said, I'm pretty much done for today, so just showing you the progress I've made. Unfortunately, I had to cut out most of that side. Enough for engine cooling. Hopefully these holes are supposed to help with that, I think. And the exhaust manifold comes up and goes around. Now when it comes to the exhaust, the manifold is going to mount right like so. And I plan on connecting and disconnecting the manifold every single time because this silicone pipe is stout. Anyways, this is a Turnigy, mostly I guess nylon or whatever, plasticky thing that they make the suspension pieces out. But they used it on their buggy, so I guess it's heat resistant enough. And then the exhaust I'm going to mount right there. It's an HSP metal exhaust, so it'll give it a little bit of a snorkel look, I guess, until I get that connected. But yeah, this is where I'm at so far. I think it's gone pretty well. I'm awfully close to getting it started. I just wish I had more hours in the day. Anyways, there's the Mini-B. Engine lays down and all the electronics fit, so hopefully next one you see will it be running. Thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe, hit the like, all that normal YouTuber shit. Lets me know that what I'm doing is appreciated by somebody. Maybe I'll keep doing it. Have a good day, guys. Hey, just realized I totally didn't even describe how I mounted the engine. There's no mount back here. That's why I can put a battery here now. because the engine is mounted with those screws that go through the exhaust. They go all the way through the bottom of the engine into the bottom of the chassis. They're like 40mm long M3 screws. I had to force them through to make the threads. You can see them right there. The one closest to the camera here, towards the rear of the engine, is close enough because it balances on the flat part of the pull start and the head on the bottom. So the rear one is fine without a spacer, but the one further in, you can't see it, there's no way. There's another, this one, all the way down in there. On the bottom of the engine, I actually used a Traxxas, I think it was a 4x4 slash shock spacer slash ball joint. Happened to be the exact length I needed, so I just used it as a really big spacer or washer and stacked that on there. So these two bolts are holding it down, and this keeps it from wobbling around, and it's not budging. But anyways, hopefully next time I see you guys, I'll have the exhaust figured out and it'll be running. So stay tuned for that one. We'll see you then.